on this episode of the China Chronicles.
What if I tell you that communism might have some redeeming qualities, some qualities that we can learn from, if not necessarily wholesale adopt? Hello everybody and welcome to yet another episode of the China Chronicles edition of the Game Changers podcast. My name is Quinn Seshis and it's a privilege and a pleasure to be here with you as usual. This week was a pretty amazing week. We tackled so many various things, chief of which, most highlighted of which, were art presentations, as well as we spent time at the Chinese Communist School. So there's so much that I want to get into. I can't wait to share it with you. On Monday, we paid a visit to the Communist Party of China's Central Party School in Beijing, an institution responsible for shaping the political thought and leadership possibility of future policymakers from China and beyond, including participants from several Caribbean nations. This school is not just a training ground for Chinese politicians. It has evolved into a global classroom where the party's governance model, socialist principles, and development philosophies are shared with the emerging leaders from the global south. During our visit, we had the opportunity to meet with senior faculty and administrators, including Gong Weibin, Vice President of the Central Party School. In a special Q&A session, journalists engaged with the Vice President and his colleagues to gain a deeper insight into the institution's philosophy and outreach strategy. Vice President Gong emphasized the school's commitment to educating a broad spectrum of people, not just elite politicians, but also grassroots leaders on topics ranging from ideological development to policy execution and public administration. The idea, he noted, is to create a leadership culture rooted in long-term vision, unity, and disciplined governance.
Party schools, part is of the CPC Central Committee, train participants from decision-making bodies and the front line of their work. Therefore, they have great practical experience. So our faculty can guide those participants from various government organs to make their contribution to party decision-making and addressing social and economic problems of different localities. They could also come up with their own suggestions and solutions as think tanks.
This makes me wonder, what is the Caribbean doing to help develop leaders who are willing and ready to govern? The CPC party offers a structured strategic approach to developing leaders from the local to the national level. Caribbean nations could also benefit from establishing or strengthening regional leadership academies that cultivate ethical, visionary, and community-oriented public servants. On Tuesday, we attended a press conference at the Beijing International Club that focused on China's philosophy and the practice of neighborhood diplomacy in the new era. The forum shed light on China's proactive efforts to foster regional stability, deepen economic ties, and support the development of smaller neighboring Asian countries. Through initiatives such as infrastructure investment, trade facilitation, and people-to-people exchanges, China has positioned itself as both a regional power and a cooperative partner. This makes me wonder, what can CARICOM learn from this model of neighborhood diplomacy? China prioritizes its immediate neighbors, supporting their development as a way to ensure collective growth and security. CARICOM could further deepen its own regional cooperation, treating the Caribbean basin as an ecosystem where uplifting one member strengthens the whole. We continued our artistic journey on Thursday by visiting the 798 Art District. This area is one of Beijing's most iconic cultural hubs. Located in the Shaoyang district, it was originally a military complex in the 1950s, designed by East German engineers. The area has since been transformed into a vibrant, creative cultural space, housing contemporary art galleries, design studios, cafes, boutiques, and cultural venues. This further begs the question, what is the Caribbean doing to celebrate the art in this way? On Friday, we visited China Central TV Plus, or CCTV Plus, an international distribution arm of China's media landscape. Headquartered in Beijing, CCTV Plus serves as a subsidiary of the main company, CCTV, and provides video footage, news packages, live signals, archives, and customized news products. Its clients include international broadcasters, media outlets, and institutions who want to license news content from China and Asia. It provides content in English, Arabic, Spanish, French, and Russian. CCTV Plus is a centralized media outlet that supports China's broader vision. Maybe CARICOM and the OACS countries can collaborate more intentionally on regional messaging, joint cultural promotion, and unified responses to global issues. Now for this week's key takeaways. And the first key takeaway this week will kind of be a long one, and that is focusing on the possibility that communism has redeeming qualities. Now, you might look at me and be very worried about where I'm going with this, but hear me out on this one. Generally in the world that we live in, communism is frowned upon, and in the Caribbean, this is not really the form of governance that we celebrate. And it's understandable given our history, given where we come from, that we like democracy. But what if I tell you that communism might have some redeeming qualities, some qualities that we can learn from, if not necessarily wholesale adopt? Like I said, globally, communism is not really seen in a good light. A famous Russian critic of this style of governance spoke to the system as a system with no soul. I have seen a different side of things while I've been in Beijing and in China in general. And one of the things that really stood out, particularly when we went to the CPC's party school, is the government's emphasis on building leaders. Now, my question is, what are we doing in the Caribbean to build leaders? Do we just get our politicians, or not just politicians, but leaders in general in the Caribbean, we just pull them out of a hat? Do they go to school to learn how to become leaders? Are we deliberate in the way that we develop them into leaders? And it's something that I had not really thought about until I actually went to the school. Whether you agree with the style of leadership or not, one thing is clear: China is very deliberate in the way that they develop leaders, right? They ensure that they understand the system, not just understand the system, but understand the people that the system affects and how it all connects together. And I wonder if we are doing enough in the Caribbean, particularly in the area of governance. The way and the background of many of our politicians often is not necessarily that, okay, they studied to become this, they studied to become leaders. They are almost leaders by chance rather than leaders by design or innovation, or learning to become leaders. And I wonder if that is a sustainable way to go. Now, I'm not saying that only leaders who learn how to lead in that specific way, going to school to learn how to lead, are great leaders. I'm not saying that at all. But I am asking the question whether or not we can be doing more to develop our leaders in that way. Whether or not we are doing enough to really help our leadership develop the mindset of leaders so that we can take our country forward. Another thing that stood out to me this week is the fact that we in the Caribbean do not seem to take continuity into our mindset when we make decisions. And I actually wrote an article about that in St. Lucia Times. It has been something on my mind for a while, because one thing that usually happens is that, at least in St. Lucia, that happens often, is that when a new government comes into power, what they usually do is that they take away a lot of what the old government or the old regime has done. whether it be good or bad. They seem to wipe the slate clean with a lot of things to really stamp themselves on their tenure in government. Now, my question is whether that is really sustainable, because after 5 years is gone, right? After 5 years have passed, right? Surely a government would have done something good. At least you'll assume that they would have done some good things. Do you then come and wipe it all out to appease your base? Do you just do that? Or do you just focus on what the country needs and advance the country forward? Is it that we only focus on short-term gains, short-term political gains, and we don't focus on the development of our state like China is doing? I mean, just look at China's development. About 40 years ago, this was one of the poorest countries in the world. I mean, that is a proven fact, right? And now it's one of the wealthiest countries. It still considers itself a large developing state, but it has advanced. And I wonder if leadership plays a significant role in that regard. In China, they plan in 5-year blocks instead of changing the government every 5 years, right? So there's a 5-year plan for almost everything, and that happens in companies, that happens in the government, it happens everywhere. So there's a 5-year plan, 5 years to establish XYZ. After the 5 years is finished, I wonder if the Caribbean cannot learn from that and try at least to have some continuity. Not necessarily saying that you have to become communist and adopt a communist style of governance. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that we do not have enough continuity in the sense that we have a vision for a long term. Things get cut off by new administrations, whether it be on the left, on the right, whether it be red or yellow. They all seem to do it, right? And they do not keep the good things going, and that is a challenge, and that is something that we really need to think about as people, as citizens in general, but also as leaders, whether or not that is what we should be doing. Because I think it hurts a country if we consistently stop the good that is happening. That was yet another amazing China Chronicles episode, and to thank you for coming on as usual. Remember to like and subscribe. Liking and subscribing and sharing our content really helps us grow and expand, and it really lets me know that you're enjoying what I'm putting out. It can be tasking to balance my schedule and also put out content for you guys. So like, subscribe, share, and let me know in the comment what your general thoughts are, what you think about the overall content in general. I would appreciate it very much. Anyhow, stay hungry, and as usual, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.